The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Introducing first, the ace that runs the place, Sami Zayn. And his tag team partner, Raw is Warren.
It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. Another scheduled for one fall podcast. I am your host, Ace Maneuvers, Sam Tate. You all know me. It's my YouTube channel. I'm joined by Roz Warren. You heard it in the intro. And we finally got the Royal Rumble, the thing that we've been talking about at length for over a month now, basically. And I don't know, Warren, what'd you put it? 1 out of 10. How good was this Rumble?
1 out of 10. How good was the Rumble? The entire pay-per-view?
Ooh, yeah, the entire pay-per-view. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna give it a probably a generously, offered 8 for me. I think the namesake matches did what they were supposed to do, especially the men's Rumble was really strong this year. And, the results were exactly what I predicted specifically last week. Not going to blow my horn too much, though, because I think a lot of the WWE universe knew what was going to happen in their hearts. And we got the big blow off to, Sami Zayn's position with the bloodline. Big moment there, big pop there. But the rest of the card definitely was lacking. So I say 8 out of 10. I know I'm being generous. What do you think?
Well, my gut reaction is a 4 out of 10, but considering the Royal Rumble pay-per-view should be weighted around the specific Royal Rumble events. Yeah. And I gotta be honest, they did fix a lot of my gripes about the Royal Rumbles. I felt like the Women's Rumble had great character work. Featuring Rhea Ripley prominently was really smart. Having her work with Liv Morgan was really smart. I harped so much on every podcast about the starting two being just the way to set the stage, set the pace. And the men's Rumble had a pretty good, I know you liked the starting two, and I thought featuring Walter, and I'm never going to call him Gunther prominently, was really smart.
Well, I think you should definitely invest the energy in switching your brain over to Gunther. He was absolutely established this past Saturday. He is ironclad, ready to be a star.
No, but Walter is 10 times a better name. It sounds better when they do the announcements. It sounds better on commentary. Gunther is the name of a bully who gets his comeuppance in every fucking 90s movie. There's no reason to have switched his... he's Walter. He's always going to be Walter. But so I think I'm going to give the pay-per-view overall a 6 out of 10.
Hey, that's pretty strong for a Sam grade, everybody. So let's just give them a round of applause for not ending up in the -5 region, the below 5, because it happens a lot.
-5 stars.
-5 stars. They've all been taken away. They've been sucked into the black hole of wrestling bemusement, friends. But yeah, I'm glad that you can give it something like a 6 out of 10. I think it's worthy of it. Let's start breaking it down. We have so much to discuss. Right?
Yeah, it's so I guess we just go in order, right? The men's Rumble I talked about featuring Imperium's leader. We'll just call him that for neutral ground. I thought featuring him prominently was really smart. By the end of it, I really thought he should have won it. I really thought it would have been, I don't know, an easier story to tell, a better story to tell. Hearing Cody's whole finish the story thing is super fucking annoying. Like, it's actually just, it's the same shit that happened in AEW, just so much faster, where it's like, what is he even doing that's so important or impressive or interactive, or he's just Dusty Rhodes' son, dude. He's just Dusty's kid at this point. It's so fucking stupid.
we could stop and right there, I suppose, before we even talk about the bones of the Rumble. I mean, I would
I
love
just skipped right to the end, didn't I?
You sure as shit did.
I'm
I'll
super annoyed. I'm just super annoyed because Walter made it all the way towards the end, and that's usually a really big rub. Except they did that in the other Rumble. Like, it's just they keep doing shit like back to back. They keep doing shit in such close proximity. It makes me wonder if there's like a singular person who oversees production and like I guess you could say script writing, like whatever, or if there's just tiny little pocket teams that do everything and no one knows what each other are doing and they just happen to miraculously come up with all of the same fucking ideas. You know, it was a really cool thing to see him survive for so long, and him and Cody had a pretty good final twos match, but Walter versus Roman Reigns started to seem so much more fucking appealing, dude. But I guess we should go back to the beginning. We should.
And we will. We've got so many opinions. I do want to say for sure, though, Triple H took this opportunity as in his first opportunity to lead a Royal Rumble. He took it as the chance to rewrite a lot of record books, and we saw some historical paramounts fall in favor of some of Triple H's major decisions this week. And I agree with you that, you know, they really pushed the whole like longest tenure in the Rumble match button hard this year with both the women's and men's matches celebrating a new record holder for longest time spent in a single Rumble. That's huge. Like, these are records.
Why is it that so obviously the first women's Rumble, someone got to like make that mark, right?
Right.
And then in the same night that Rhea Ripley gets to do the historic run and you know go all the way and have the longest time, they also have it be like not foreshadowed but like overshadowed by a male wrestler doing it. Like all the men's wrestlers, like, you know, the men's Royal Rumble basically got to set all the records and do everything first. Men's wrestling gets to do everything first. So when you want to break like a record for women's wrestling, you shouldn't break the same fucking record for men's wrestling.
Certainly not in the same Rumble. You can argue that if you want there to be more gravitas to the moment, you don't want to do that in the same night. And I can agree with you. Or Triple H is just setting a precedent here. Who knows if somebody will topple these records next year, and it just becomes
year,
a running.
The Rumble just gets longer and longer.
Well, I felt like the women's match was pretty swift, but again, folks, what you basically just heard was an amalgamation of most of the main points we're about to make for the next hour and 40 minutes. So if you feel like you've heard enough, you've basically got the gist of the main points just now. But let's start from the beginning, shall we? Because I had to look it up. This was the first time the men's Royal Rumble match wasn't in the main event slot since 2013, when it went on second to last that year. And so to have them open with it, I thought was fascinating because personally, I was like, well, then some people are going to be disappointed by this result, is what my head immediately said. It said, we're not going to get a big fat swerve surprise. We're not going to get The Rock. And we're not likely to get Sami Zayn. No reason for that to take place before the main event. We're also not going to get Kevin Owens, right? Because otherwise,
a lot of my predictions, a lot of my, you know, thought processes going into this definitely involved the Rumble going on last, and definitely involved other storylines kind of being solved first.
Right. And I feel like as soon as it hit me that the Rumble was opening, one, my excitement spiked because I was really looking forward to this match. But two, I was like, okay, I think it's pretty clear who's going to win this. Everybody's getting ready to just see the prophecy come true. And, we heard it in the open, and we will get there as to Cody and his victory and how it makes you feel. But truly, I also want to make the point that I can't remember the last time a star was so well established in a Rumble match whom didn't win the Rumble match. All right.
Looking back, a rub. He got a rub.
And it's the best rub you can get from this scenario and not win the Rumble match. It's a truly fantastic rub. I feel like Gunther coming out at 1 and lasting all the way to be runner up of this match, like he's set in stone. Buckle up and get ready to watch Gunther dominate for at least 5 to 7 years after what he did this past night. He's a made man in the same way, and then I'll let you chime in the same way. Roman was a made man when he had a pop off in the Royal Rumble back in 2013, I think it was, because he went and won it in 2014. No, that was Batista. 15. So 14. It was 14 where he popped off and almost was like, almost won it, but certainly was crowned as like the future. And last one, Bianca Belair in her debut, coming out in like 1 or 2, having a fantastic Rumble, but then basically getting out in like the final 4 or something. That had to be 2019, I think. So, like, frick, man. Like, Gunther's set. He is set. And I'm happy for him. He had an amazing freaking night.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like he's a made man after this, but he's definitely been doing quality work the entire time he's been with WWE, and you know, I don't think he did anything to the Kofi spot, but you know, there's maybe a couple things that looked sloppy and stiff, but like he's a different type of worker. He is so unique. Like his body posture, his profile when he's staying sideways, the way he moves, it looks stiff and weird, but I feel like that's like on purpose. That's like part of the character. Honestly, like it's a short leap to make, but like William Regal-esque in a lot of ways, where he's like weirdly slouched to the side, and you know his knees are kind of like always bent, but still pretty stiff, like. And he just looks like he has like a weird clash a lot of times, especially with a guy like a Cody Rhodes who is just so focused on athleticism, you know, whereas Walter is focused on like posturing. So I definitely think that if he doesn't have a rocket strapped to him, they are dumbasses. If he doesn't have an insane WrestleMania moment, like there's just no hope. There's no hope for the creative staff if he doesn't have like the greatest WrestleMania match, the greatest WrestleMania moment this year, because you need to capitalize on that because he didn't win, so he's not going to get an automatic WrestleMania moment. And on top of that, it feels a lot like this is like being the sole survivor, which is like a fucking moniker they'll give a guy for like 2 months before he goes back to being a jobber.
Yeah, I'm not thinking there's any danger of that. I think Gunther is set because he's got a team behind him. The Imperium group is just gaining steam. He's got the size and the throwback presentation is what I'll call it. He's a big Austrian bear wrestler, okay? He's a throwback to the era of wrestling when it was almost its own sideshow still. And
right, he's got like the stiff, like chest out, like you know, like he's got like the stiff, tall grapplers look. You know, he looks like a guy who's trying to lock up every time.
I disagree. I think he's a bear. I think he swats people down. I think he batters you. I think he reminds me of, you know, the JBL Stan Hansen cloth more than anything. He's a big, burly brawler who can still manhandle your ass and power bomb you through the canvas. And he's got a no nonsense. What's that, brother?
Because I would describe JBL that way too. He's got like a stiff look. He puffs his chest out and his arms are always bent.
Hey, I'm not too caught up on the way they're standing. I'm caught up on the way they knock people down, and Gunther's chop across your chest is one of the meanest single strikes in the business today. And he's got the toolkit. He's done a great job keeping the weight off. He looks svelte. He's strong enough to manhandle most men he'll come across. He's got a simple character that doesn't need to be overspoken or overstated. He's just perfect to be right where he's at. He's going to be a cornerstone of WWE's presentation for the next 5 to 7 years. No one saying anything.
He should have been already. What took so long?
What took so long for him to hit because he's been with the E for a couple years? What took him so long to get to this point?
Yeah,
well,
like why isn't he already here? Why do we got to deal with fucking Cody Rhodes and more Kevin Owens? But you're my friend bullshit. Like, I'm so tired of friendship wrestlers. Let's get some guys who care about wrestling, where the mat is sacred. It's about results in the ring.
It will come, especially with the way Gunther was treated. And he came in at number 1 to Sheamus's number 2. I love that pairing. I wrote that in bold as I started sitting down to watch this one. So excited to watch these guys clash because I said Sheamus was an outside pick for me to win the Rumble. Gunther was on my short list too, but Sheamus had felt pretty good as an already established main event man who's been gaining steam in 2022 and deserved a little love in 2023. I thought these two kicking it off was fire. And I loved that as entrants started to come in, the ring filled up pretty steadily. There weren't very many eliminations until we started getting into like I'd say the 10 to 11 spot in this Rumble. It is when we started seeing people leave, but they filled up the ring this year. And I think that added gravitas to the match type itself, in my opinion.
Yeah, when they said it was Sheamus's birthday, I was getting a little worried that this might be a Sheamus year, but luckily coming out early and coming out number 2 did make it seem a little less like if Sheamus had come out number 1 and it's Triple H's first Rumble and it's Sheamus's birthday and the way that they were, just setting new records for all kinds of stuff, like that could have worried me that it was a Sheamus year, but I figured, those two guys were on your list, came out 1 and 2, and then McIntyre came out like in the first 10 because everyone who worked together had to be very close together. And so that made me think, okay, all of the other outside shots are so early, it's basically going to be Cody or Big E. And Big E didn't show up, of course, so...
Right. Which, again, I think we already mentioned it on the recording. There was no reason for us to expect him to arrive. It was just a fun outside shot because
would have been huge.
Would have been huge.
Would have been the best kept secret in wrestling today, too.
They did a good job with what they gave us. I'm going to continue to stand by it. I enjoyed this Rumble quite a lot. We had lots of world champions come into the ring, whether you like it or not. The first 4, Gunther was
been a world champion now. Elias, woo.
Elias wasn't a world champion, and if he had, then yikes. But Miz and Kofi came out.
Champs.
I missed the first part of that point, but Miz and Kofi come out 3 and 4, more world champs there, and then Gargano at number 5, who went on to have a bit of an Iron Man run himself, proving that he can hang with a lot of different body types in this one and take a lot of punishment. A lot of guys just kept hitting Gargano with their finish over and over again, and he took a lot of it. Xavier Woods at number 6 to give us some Kofi and Xavier play. And everybody was hot to this point. Like every single entrant had something to do for those full 2 minutes, showing off what they got, getting in everybody else's way. The 30,000 beats of the Bowery to Miz by Sheamus. Like the crowd was in it. Nobody was quieting down until number 7 when Karrion Kross came out. I mean, this poor guy hasn't really proven that he can stand and get the content, for him that we once thought he was going to get when he was brought back by Triple H as his first, hey, I'm in charge now. I want that guy back. Kross hasn't lived up to the hype. and it continued in this Rumble. His was one of the shortest appearances. The crowd finally quieted down. He did a couple power moves and then basically got the 2020 Royal Rumble finish when McIntyre Claymored, Brock over. He got that same treatment given to him to be the second elimination of the match. And I just feel bad for Cross. I just want to put it out there that I feel like, even though I don't think of him as a top guy yet, he must be losing some pretty substantial momentum at this point. And I feel like either something needs to be done to help him and focus on him again, or he's going to fall to the pecking order and maybe even find his way off TV. What do you think?
I'm not surprised. Karrion Kross has never done a single entertaining thing in his life. They killed him on sight when he debuted with some dumbass helmet. And now, just because he comes out to black and white sepia tones that a fucking high schooler can do on their iPhone, that's not going to change anything.
Okay. Understood. I mean, his facial expressions, his presence, his growling presentation for his line delivery. There's a couple of textures to him that feel unique enough and certainly have, as I said, presence to think that there's an aura here to invest in. So I can understand how Triple H especially sees potential in this guy. This guy has kind of built his way up through the independents. You and I saw him at Sam's Town a couple times, right? We've watched Kevin Cross do his thing, and we liked him then. He stood off. I mean, he stands out like a sore thumb in indie wrestling, but on the big screen, in the big stage, he hasn't been able to find the gear that says, yeah, I'm a top guy in the world's biggest promotion. And I think we're going to see either he needs to find that gear or he's going to fade to the back. I almost said fade to black, but we're on promotion.
I mean, good riddance. Get him off my TV. Give me more guys I want to see, like Dolph Ziggler, who was also not present. I don't know. I think he's pretty much done as far as being an active guy. Who is next? What's the next big entrant? We talked about McIntyre. The New Day was pretty entertaining. They came out like one number apart and they did the butt bongo spot, which was good comedy wrestling, I guess.
Sure.
Xavier
pretending
doing
like they're gonna
I'm actually
up.
gonna try and wrestle with Shorty G was pretty funny, even though it lasted all of like 10 seconds. It's like a good comedy thing to do. Like, haha, we're gonna wrestle during the Rumble. Who does that?
Well, then Brock Lesnar comes out at number 12 and wrecks all these guys, right? Gable's gone, Dawkins is gone, who, had his flash of fire real quick when he got in. Santos Escobar, who had a great cruiserweight run last couple years and is still finding his footing on the main roster. He was gone. Brock looked like a cannon of fire, as you'd expect in the Rumble environment, as he always has been. And he looked poised to win it all over again, didn't he?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he's the reason the ring gets to fill up, because you got to have someone come through who is going to be dominating and start tossing motherfuckers out, whether it's because they're just physically imposing, like the Kanes and the Braun Strowmans of the world, or if it's just because they are that high up on the card main eventer, like, John Cena's, Randy Orton's, stuff like that. It was pretty nice to see.
I've seen guys like come in and clear some house with some throat thrusts, sure, or like a decent clothesline or two, but Brock was looking like he was trying to hurt these guys. Escobar gets flipped over the top rope and lands like shoulder blades first on the apron. That looked like it hurt like hell. And then Dawkins gets hammered so hard, you'd think he got hurt on the fall. And the third guy, Gable, another rough one, man. They all just get manhandled out of the ring with an intensity that really is only offered to Brock Lesnar. Like, it's amazing how he can make everybody look like they're dead after they're done interacting with him. And I was like, shoot. And like the whole texture of the match has changed. But yet they make number 13, the guy to come after Brock Lesnar, his rival, Bobby Lashley. And you had said this in our lead up to the recording. You were kind of bummed to see so many rivals be so close to each other in the order, right?
Yeah, it seemed like they were just gonna do every little mini story right after each other, and it's just like, what are the odds? I mean, the Hardy Boys would end up in the ring at the same time a whole lot, and I think there's more than one Rumble where they actually do come out back to back, but I mean, this was like everybody. This was tag team partners. This was rival. I mean, like the biggest gap is like Sheamus to McIntyre at like 7 people.
Or Otis and Gable separated by 8, right?
Were they separated by 8? I thought they were in there like right there together for like 1 minute, but
I have Otis at 16, Gable at 8. So yeah, 8 slots.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, well, Gable also got eliminated before Otis got in, right? With the Brock Lesnar.
Precisely. Yep.
Yeah. So like they didn't actually get to work together. So I guess I don't know if that counts or not, but it just if guys were going to work together, it did not take long for them to do their stuff,
And work together they did as Bobby Lashley runs in and completely lays waste to Lesnar in a huge moment that really felt like it recreated that Drew McIntyre 2020 pop that I love so much. I was super happy for Bobby because he needed a moment to go over Brock for a second.
Yeah,
and
really created a star there.
Well, your sarcasm is dripping through the microphone. I hear you. But
very star creation of them to let Bobby Lashley beat up Brock Lesnar. Just, man, who'd have thunk it of all the people?
Is the sarcasm truly there or no? Like, I'm just checking because Lashley needed that moment for him after the several times he's interacted with Lesnar recently, continually ending up in failure. If this sets up the Brock Lesnar Bobby Lashley WrestleMania match, you have to hope it's finally going to be the chance for Bobby Lashley to put one over on him and really solidify himself as the new major monster in the E.
But what if instead they became a tag team and we started to call them Brock Lashley?
I hate the name.
Bobby Lesnar, let's go.
Obviously, they'd have a 3-year tag team championship run until Brock feels like retiring, and Bobby wouldn't be too far behind him. I mean, they would set records, they'd break a lot of people, but would we enjoy those matches for much longer? I don't know.
Probably. I mean, everyone seems to pop for Suplex City because you only see it once every 2 months.
Right.
Brock Lesnar, by the way, is the proof of my formula that wrestlers should have MMA schedules because I don't need to see them do their shtick every 7 days.
I mean, we could have a whole episode on what it would be like to rotate the wrestling, the faces of wrestling through the business, in and out, give them breaks, send them home, have them have summer vacations, go take a nap. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of benefit, and they certainly have plenty of talent to make that happen, where you just kind of have seasons of specific people. Maybe instead of having shows with unique rosters, you have whole seasons where like some guys are relegated to Group A and they only wrestle in winter and fall, and the other guys are relegated to Group B and they only wrestle in spring and
We're
summer.
getting a little too in depth here. This is the Rumble episode. I just want to point out that like people pop for Lesnar doing the same German suplexes.
I hear you. It's fun to watch guys get tossed around like potato sacks, I suppose.
I guess the real thing is like when he does it to jobbers, it looks really good because they're so small and he actually just fucking launches them. But the selling point is that Lesnar will do it to guys like John Cena's. The point, like the real selling point is that nobody is safe from jobbing to Lesnar.
True enough. And it was obvious in that moment when Bobby did dispatch of Lesnar that that's what we're heading for Mania. I'm stoked for it. We knew it was coming anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But then Baron Corbin comes out, right? And Brock.
This might have been the best part of the Rumble.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. I literally thought of you while this happened because Brock wrecks Baron Corbin, who's not a tiny guy, just wrecks him, absolutely destroys him before he can get into the ring. And you're thinking, well, Corbin's still got a chance. He'll get in there and do something at some point. But all he was there to do was be a body for when Seth Rollins comes down at number 15, I think, right? And
excuse you, that is Seth freaking Rollins. It's right there in the title card.
It's true. It is official. I keep forgetting that's his true, actual, full ring name now. I really do keep forgetting.
It's
but
so
yes,
weird, isn't it?
Seth. Oh yeah, it's uncomfortable for me. I mean, I'm gonna try to say it right now. It's gonna make me feel strange. Watch. Seth freaking Rollins runs down. Yeah, I don't like it. Grabs Baron, throws him in the ring, and then gets him right out of the ring in like 6 seconds, right? And I was like, Sam probably loved that. Tell me I'm wrong.
You know, I was actually sour on it at first because he didn't pick him up and F5 him or slam him into a ring post or hit him with a steel chair or, you know, take out a nail gun and drill a sign to his forehead that says I'm with stupid, but you know, you take what you can get.
You take what you can get, and what you get is a quick elimination of a guy like Baron Corbin, so Seth can, you know, get his first one in for the Rumble. I mean, some people were picking this guy as an outside shot, and for no bad reason. He's one of the most over guys on the roster. He's one of the most trusted to put on an excellent match. Seth Rollins deserves something meaningful to do at WrestleMania, but we'll get to that because Otis comes in, and then we feel like Rey Mysterio is on his way out at number 17, and we get that awkward moment where the music's playing and nobody's coming through the curtain, and you just know some fuckery's going afoot, right? I hear that kind of rubbed you the wrong way, the way that they carried the Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio 17 and 18 spot, right?
Yeah, I think quite a few people I've seen talking about it are like weirded out because like if a guy just doesn't come out in the past, they've pretty much always had someone replace him. Although I don't think that's true. I think it's just what people have been saying. And then it's like a 29-man Rumble now. So like, does that change anything? Does that actually matter? And then, of course, the running theme of, like, Dominic comes out at 19. Wow, the fucking Mysterios drew number 18 and number 19. And that, you know, like, is that the reason why Dominic was able to attack him? Because of their proximity and, you know, getting ready and going to the fucking entrance tunnel? Like, we don't get to see anything because Ray's not there in the pay-per-view at all, but, like, why couldn't Dominic just steal his number?
Right. I hear you. I mean,
like, he already is just beating up his dad, right? Like, they're already just not cool. And it's supposed to make me go, ooh, he beat up his dad and took his mask. What a shithead. Like, no, he took his dad's chance at the fucking world championship. That's a way better fucking catalyst.
It's true. I mean, the pieces are set for a potential match for them if, you know, Ray can recover. I hear he's doing okay now, but the thing is he was injured for this match, and they probably just wrote the two back to back to cover for it. But I agree, could have been a slot that they hand to somebody like a Dolph Ziggler or an Akira Tozawa. Thank you very much. Or somebody else who didn't have something to do that night. But they didn't. They decided to have Ray's spot go unclaimed, Dominic be treated like the guy who's responsible for it completely. And then you have that hilarious moment of Dominic not being able to rip his own father's mask in half, which, you know, the stuff is real leather. I mean,
come on, man. I mean, Hulk's been perforating his shirts since the fucking 80s. We know how to do this by now. We gimmick the tables. We gimmick the shirts. If you want to break or rip something, you just got to gimmick the mask. It's amateur hour, really. That's how you know they didn't plan it.
And that's how, that was probably Dominic's choice, thinking that he could do it, and then oops. But it's extra
like,
funny.
How do we make sure people know that Dominic attacked his dad?
Right. Well, true. That's one way to do the storytelling. And then on the other hand, though, with the whole, hardened attitude Dominic has had since he had that brief stint in prison, right? And then he can't rip his father's mask. Dominic is a clever kid. He's knowing how to get his stupid shit heat right now. So
I think he was about to rip it and then realized it's like a real mask, not a fucking gimmick mask, and his dad didn't tell him it's okay.
Now, speaking of gimmicks, out comes Elias with music I didn't recognize. I don't know about you. At number 19, carrying a guitar, of course, because what else is he going to do? And you said yourself, as he was walking down the ramp, he looked a little irritated, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if he was really just trying to be serious, for a match, and we've just never seen it before because he's doing his whole shtick on the way to the ring. And we've seen him come in the middle of the Rumble and do it. Like, he's been walking down the ramp in the middle of the Rumble, I'm pretty sure, doing the, everyone shut up and listen to me thing. And he just seemed like he was constipated and walking to the ring and was like, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to get eliminated. And that's it. Like, I don't know. There's no attitude. He wasn't with it.
I feel bad for Elias a little bit as a performer because I feel like he tried to outgrow, whether he was asked to or not, he tried to outgrow his very capable, very, very appropriate, sit in the ring and talk shit to the city, shtick that he had done the first several years of his run. He tried to outgrow it and tried to be somebody different. And he got the most vanilla, stupid, watered down, we can see through this bullshit character in, Ezekiel, right? And then now that he's back to being Elias, he's not even given his old shtick back, as a means to connect with the audience, at least as consistently. And it sucks because, and I feel bad for him. Like, why would you even bother being brought back as Elias if Elias is now going to be nothing more than just fodder for his own gimmick? I mean, he whacked Gunther and split him open in the back, if you noticed, with that guitar shot. And that was about all he got before getting claymored and bro kicked at the same time. And I'd not seen that spot before. That looked brutal. I thought he legit had a broken jaw. He looked like crap getting thrown out of the ring. He's grabbing his jaw. I just felt bad for the guy. It was a rough night for Elias for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, once he doesn't play the guitar at all, it's a gimmick guitar. So
sure.
It's weird. And it's supposed to be Triple H in charge now, and Triple H has been on record in interviews talking about how as soon as he heard about the walk with Elias thing and the guitar and stuff, he was like, "Oh, this is gold. This is gonna go over for sure, 100%." So kind of weird to get away from it if Triple H is in charge, but maybe it's just not the spot for it. Maybe they just really felt like the Rumble didn't have a place to put him talking on a microphone.
It's strange. It tastes super funny. It's too bad that Elias didn't get his normal shtick and got tossed out. We'll have to see what happens to him, especially now that, I don't know if you caught Raw, especially with your comment that you were worried that Dolph is done in the ring. He's not. He was in a match last night on Monday.
Yeah, I was so busy with the Hero League Championship for Universes that it was a struggle to get through this Royal Rumble pay-per-view, man.
Oh, no, I get it, but we'll march on. Because the not only was Dolph in the match last night, there was a totally different point I was going to make. But anyway, heading back to the Rumble, focusing in on what we want to talk about. Another elimination that happened a couple minutes before that we just kind of brushed over was the elimination of Bobby Lashley. He had this awesome moment of eliminating Brock and looking like a stud. And I thought, hey, cool. Maybe Lashley's going to have a deep run in this one. But Seth freaking Rollins just happened to escape one of his power slams or something and then shove him right over the top rope fairly unceremoniously. I want you to weigh in on this one. I personally felt like that was wrong to eliminate Lashley so quickly after getting that big moment of eliminating Lesnar. It was made a little better by having Seth be the guy to do it because Seth is a legitimately strong top star. But I didn't quite like the decision. What was your thought there?
I think it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of eliminations are lackluster just for what they are. You know, like every time a guy just gets grabbed by the back of the head and fucking ran over to the ropes and he just hops over himself, you know, and it's pretty obvious that you're not throwing the dude, and you know, that kind of shit always bothers me. I feel like there should be wrestling moves involved. But on the flip side, I think it's really funny when you see people who are like up against the ropes and someone's trying to pick their legs up and dump them over. You know, it's always like the animation from the video games when you're doing the tug of war mini game and shit, and it's like no one ever gets eliminated this fucking way.
No.
Nobody who's gonna put up a fight ever gets eliminated pretty much, and if they do, it's almost always because someone else runs up behind the person trying to eliminate them and dumps them both over or whatever.
Which, you know, even Corey Graves had a tirade about that. If somebody is trying to eliminate somebody, why do you go after that person? Eliminate the guy who's up against the ropes, almost about to lose anyway, right? You help the people get the others out of the ring. Like, why interrupt that? It's true, but the element of surprise is huge in wrestling in general, but especially in the Rumble. If you're staring at the guy and your arms are all tied up in the ropes and they're coming over to lift you up and try to dump you over, you're going to resist and you're going to probably get out of that because there's no element of surprise. But if somebody's sneaking up from behind, well, it's as good as a quick roll up for a 1, 2, 3, right? It's just the most devastating move in sports entertainment, as some might say.
Speaking of surprises, where was our only singular surprise entrant in this Rumble?
Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue because, after Finn Balor comes in at number 20, doing Finn Balor stuff, Booker T comes out as our one surprise of the night at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, right? Isn't that where it is? I hope so.
Yeah, it was in Texas. You could tell there was a lot of Texas love going on.
Right. And Booker T comes out at 57, looking pretty darn good.
Oh, there was 57 people in the Rumble?
No, he's 57 years old, I can't believe he's almost in his 60s. That's crazy to me how much time has passed since I was a young guy watching Booker T spin-a-rooney his way through the Raw that was here in Las Vegas, where they did the TLC match. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, those were like the early days of my fandom. And Booker was he was 35 then. So here he comes, ready to do what he's always done. He hits a passable kick to one guy, hits the arm wrench kick to another, turns around and lays somebody out with a bookend, and then hits his spin-a-rooney, and the crowd's loving it. And then I think it was Gunther, who kind of had the theme of the night of being the one to wash down everybody's happiness with like some real reality. But I think it was Gunther who came up behind him, grabbed him, and dismissed him from the match. But there was your one surprise. What do you think of Booker as the one shocker of the match?
Again, that speaks to me as like a lack of planning. That speaks to me that they just didn't think this far ahead. Because if you don't have this planned out beforehand, getting surprise entrance is going to be just, more difficult than getting your regular employees who are always on site, in catering or whatever. And so that's just what I took from it, is they didn't go out and get surprise entrance and book them to show up and be a part of it.
There's an interesting opposite take where folks are putting over the fact that Triple H seemed to have faith in his active roster by not jam packing this Rumble with additional names, right?
This is the one time, man, because Triple H is gonna have, they did the fucking Undertaker passing the torch thing to Bray Wyatt on TV before, like, this is the time for shit like that. This is the time for guys to have a comeback. But I mean, I guess Raw 30 is hard to not book that way, but
right.
I don't know.
I was thinking about that too, man. Like Raw 30 had just gotten done paying homage to many, as a matter of fact, male legends. We only had Alundra Blaze from the ladies' side, if you think about it, and that's kind of a boo-boo. But on the men's side, there was just tons of legends brought back for that night. It was kind of interesting to see that juxtaposed in the Royal Rumble so flatly that, Booker, who's actually a week in, week out employee doing commentary at NXT, he's the only surprise.
He's actually with him doing TV fairly regularly.
Right. Just not in a wrestler role. Right.
That's just in Florida, right? He's going back and forth between his wrestling school in Texas and like doing commentary in Florida, right?
Sounds like the life, man. I'm happy for Booker.
Or does NXT travel is what I'm getting at?
No, they're still based pretty purely out of that
wholesale. Okay, I wasn't sure when they got the TV deal. I thought maybe they started to do traveling shows, but
they shouldn't. Not right now. They're nowhere near as hot or as interesting as they were when they had the heyday. But we've covered that a little bit. We'll keep moving forward. Then your fun surprise out of left field to win the whole Rumble, if you want to make a new star pick, comes out at number 22, Damian Priest, and that's a solid pick for him. And at the time, Dominic Mysterio was still in the match. Who, by the way, kudos to Dominic. He had a really solid turn in as far as this match was concerned. He had a good night. He was in there a while and he took plenty of punishment, and that works. That works for being a solid Rumble appearance. But at that time, we had Priest, Dom, and Finn all in the match. Judgment Day was complete, and they started making moves with that. They had eliminated a couple guys with that numbers game, and now we're starting to think, are we going to get a full faction really changing how things should go in this Rumble? What did you think? When you saw 3 of those guys hit the ring together, did you think there was a chance Judgment Day was going to take over?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would want. Like, I'd want to speak volumes to the benefit it would have. At the same time, I do think they did some pretty good stuff with it. I think a lot of timing was off. I'll say this. I think the timing for a lot of stuff was just off. Like, whether it's things going on when the countdown clock is expiring, whether it's, guys clearly just like, I gotta go find the dude I need to work with, or, doing like punching a guy in the back and the worst fake punch of all time to like remind him where you are, Yeah,
those moments are pretty cringy when you see them. It's true.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Hopefully it wasn't someone super late, but there was one entrant where they like got in the ring. There's like 2 people laying down in 2 of the corners, and the other 2 corners of the match have people, standing up working them. And this guy runs down, gets in, does like a stomp to one of the guys down the corner, runs to the other corner, does a stomp to them, and then runs over and like shoves a guy in the back, and then runs over to the 4th corner and just like punches a guy once. And then everyone turns around and just like eliminated him or something. And it was just so weird. It was such a weird fucking sequence to see him basically just go tap everyone on the shoulder and then get eliminated.
Odd. Are you talking about Montez Ford, who came out at number 23? Because in weird kind of moment, I have to admit, this perked me up because I didn't really express this clearly while we were on the air last week, but in the way that you had picked Damian Priest to be the star made to win the Rumble as a complete left field, candidate, Montez Ford was actually my completely left field candidate because I think he's poised to have a big singles run at some point, and he looked really fired up coming down the ramp. Like there was just something about the way he was carrying himself that for a second made me think, does he really about to win this? Is this really going to happen? Like, that'd be crazy. And then your guy eliminated my guy. Your priest eliminated my Montez Ford. I was like, fuck you, Sam. Like, you got me again.
Yeah, it wasn't so much like my pick to win it. I was just like, this is a good candidate to make a star out of, I guess.
Sure.
But so like there was a point when Dominic was trying to extend the handshake, but like, who was it? Damian Priest and I think Sheamus or McIntyre had already like paired up and started throwing hands and shit. So it's like clearly the peace route is just completely out of the option, you know?
I mean, Dominic is just a slimy heel. Every slimy heel will try to pretend to be friendly for a minute if it prevents them from getting beat the fuck up by, a pissed off, completely translucent Irish guy. So I don't know. It's just predictable heel stuff for me. Normal stuff that like a Ric Flair would do in his matches too. So like you gotta to be the man, you got to imitate the man and steal all his shit. So no big deal for me anyway. But Judgment Day was
weird timing. It just like they stood there for so long with the hand extended and the two teammates in the background just brawling it out.
I guess it's not resonating with me as something that really stood out to me in the match, so forgive me, but I'm sorry that rubbed you the wrong way. But Judgment Day's rolling. They eliminated a couple folks. Montez has a very quick cameo, and then who do we get? You could argue this was a surprise, but Edge, right? We haven't seen Edge in a couple months. Out he comes.
Bit of a return, I guess.
Sure. You had to know it was
action.
Right. You had to know it was coming. It's WrestleMania season. Edge maybe has a couple big matches left in his life before we start to talk true retirement for him. And
he'll always try to get his wife a paycheck when he can.
Right. And that kind of happened here. Edge comes out and he eliminates a couple of the Judgment Day guys and all hell breaks loose before he gets eliminated pretty quick as well.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was just rapid fire, man. It's like, here you are very similar to, or in proximity, I should say, not similar, but, here you are, you have a similar number to either your arch rival or your teammate. And then once you've done your gimmick for the match, you're eliminated.
Judgment Day got 18 with Dominic, 20, I believe, with Finn, and then 22 with Priest. And then Edge comes out at 24. Right. You're right. From that standpoint, the storytelling was a little telegraphed, but we did get that storyline furthered. Beth Phoenix returned, looking like a badass, of course, with this awesome hairdo that she had rocking. She looked stacked, too. Like, she's ready to fucking fight. Whomever she's wrestling, they got to do this Edge, Beth Phoenix, Ripley, and Finn Balor match at like Elimination Chamber just to get it out of the way, because Ripley's going to be busy pretty soon. But they need to have a payoff. As a matter of fact, Rhea Ripley does cameo here at the top of the stage as everybody's kind of leaving, following Edge eliminating Dom and Priest, and then actually I think it was Finn and Priest. Dom outlasted them, surprisingly. And then Edge backs his way into Beth, like, coming out, who spears the shit out of Ripley. And that was a cool moment. Like, good stuff. Like, I liked it, but I was like, what you're talking about totally rang true for me in that moment, too, where all these guys had such similar numbers to have this choreographed story be told and then, be on your way. That was a little awkward. And then we start getting kind of everybody's winding down. We got our last 6 picks. Austin Theory is going to come out, of course, give the young upstart like a decent shot with a decent slot. And then we get the 2 big burlies, Omos and Braun Strowman, who literally cancel each other out, I believe.
That's it. That's the perfect phrasing for this Rumble. You introduce something, and then within 2 spots, it's gonna cancel it out.
Yeah. Almost gets taken out by Braun again. Almost still hasn't had a moment where he's looked like a bigger deal than Braun Strowman, who's currently tagging with Ricochet, by the way.
That was so fucking weird to find out. Like,
sure.
I thought for a minute, I was like, oh, Braun Strowman's like a surprise return, but then I remembered it's not.
Right.
I remembered he's actually been around for a minute. And then him palling around with Ricochet was so weird because, no offense, my dude, but like, are they friends just because they're both bald and have beards?
Right. I think they're both friends because they're
like,
both.
You could be their heater, man. You could be their manager. I mean,
thank you. What a compliment. With the bald and beard action, I would fit right in. Except,
give me like a Paul Heyman style intro for the monster of all monsters, real quick.
I introduce to you the monster of all monsters, Braun Strowman. I'm pretty sure I peaked like 3 or 4 times in that, but hopefully you got what you needed.
Definitely in the beginning, but you know, I dig the commitment to the full Lesnar style. I think you can pull it off.
Thanks, man. Well, we'll see. We'll see if anybody listens to this thing. So Strowman and Ricochet come out tag team partners, right, at 27 and 28. And
see, I didn't even really realize that at first, so it didn't click. But yeah, that's more partners that are just like, oh fuck, these guys got to go together. It's almost like they told everybody in the Rumble, like, okay, well, you can pick wherever you want to be. It's just like first come, first serve. But like your buddy has to like reserve you a spot.
You're right. Now that you're mentioning it, and we're seeing so many examples, there were a lot of folks who came out with their buddies or their enemies in this one and had their storylines succinctly but expediently carried out. And you can either call that tight storytelling or you could call it lazy booking. And I think we're both going to fall on the separate sides of those coins. So it just depends on your perspective. But now we have only 2 spots left. We know who one of them is, and
it's
the other one.
Fucking weird that you would save it for the last one.
I'm with you, but number 29 in between was arguably the only other surprise we had legitimately, outside of Booker and Edge. If you're even going to count it as a surprise, I would. Logan Paul returned to the WWE after getting injured a couple months ago in that absolute match of the year candidate with Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel that if you haven't seen, you deserve to see, and Logan Paul deserves to be seen. What a match. He comes back fully healthy, ready to help take the Royal Rumble home. And I'm going to say this. I have no love for Logan Paul as a human being. I have no desire for him to have a happy, healthy life. Like, I'm not wishing him dead. I don't give a fuck about him. I don't much care for the stunt he pulled in Japan, going to the spiritual forest of the suicide forest, as they call it, or somebody calls it. So anyway, I didn't like that whole thing, and ever since that, I've been on like a anti-Logan Paul as a person bandwagon. But this man was born to be a professional wrestler. He is insanely gifted for how few matches he's wrestled and how much he's absorbed, learned, and provided to the business. Holy crap. I don't care what you might say about Logan Paul as a person at this point. He absolutely belongs to be in WWE. He belongs he belongs in a pivotal spot, like, in the business. I'm just going to say it. I believe he's fantastic. He's a savant for this. Go ahead. Have fun retorting.
I mean, it's just weird to have like that whole preamble and then also want him to have gainful employment. That's all.
I know. I mean, there's nothing I could do about it. Like, he could be a crappy human being.
We all could as a collective, but the world doesn't work that way.
No.
He's not a bad wrestler. He's not great or experienced, but he's very much in that realm of like, well, he's good for a guy who doesn't do this full time. He's good for a guy who came from a completely different avenue, but that is still all entertainment. So, and he had the highlight of the match, really. He did have the biggest spot, the biggest highlight of the match. So he gets that.
Yeah. If you guys didn't see it, Logan Paul's outside the ring on one set of ropes, and across from him, Ricochet is outside the ring by another set of ropes. They look at each other, lock eyes, count to 3, and then they both jump to the middle rope, then to the top rope, and launch themselves towards the center of the ring at each other, clobber each other with a clothesline, and fall to the ground. And yes, absolutely, one of the most insane spots I've ever seen in my life, and came out of left field. Totally loved it. Crowd popped huge. It's going to be a highlight for years to come. And good for Ricochet for being part of that too, if you ask me, because Paul, everybody's talking about how it was Paul in WWE's spot. Like, it's so funny. You read the headlines and you're scrolling by. Logan stuns with huge, WWE spot, and poor Ricochet's name is nowhere to be seen, but oh well, at least he's in the image. That moment was crazy.
It's a shame there was no build up to it though. Like, the crowd should have been whipped up into a frenzy, and that was the crowning thing. Instead, they just sat there and yelled at each other and made sure that that they could count to 3 before safely flying towards each other.
I mean, it was a little bit telegraphed in that sense, but you knew they were going to do something wild just because of their unique positioning at that in such a weird match for you to be in that position at all. You're like, okay, they're going to do something, and they sure did something. That moment was wild, and that was right before we welcomed number 30, and we can spend a couple minutes talking on this because Cody Rhodes comes out at number 30 as the heads and shoulders and torso favorite, right, above everybody else to win the Rumble. And you just, that's when I shrugged and was like, okay, so there's literally nobody in the ring except for Gunther at this point that I think is going to win this match. Maybe Seth, super maybe Seth. I don't think Logan's going to do it. Right? It's really between those 3, and the ring was still pretty full by this point. There was still I think about 11 guys in the match. So what do you think? Cody at number 30, I'm sure we can agree it would have been, with him being so telegraphed as a participant in this match, announced weeks in advance he was going to be there, and kind of assuming he's going to win because of how much his return has meant allegedly to him and the Rhodes family and to wrestling. I would have put him sooner. You were thinking he deserved something last week, right? In the beginning of the match, 3 or 4. We were talking about 1 or 2, right? What do you think of him at 30, with especially now knowing how it all played out?
It's not a surprise. You literally fucking announced him. So saving him for 30 is really dumb, because it's as soon as 29 comes out, it's him. And I don't know. All I can say is, wow, what a star that was made from this Rumble. Wow, look at all that star creating power from this Rumble. There's, it's just nice to see a mid-card guy like Cody Rhodes really get brought into the forefront, just like Walter.
As much as your sarcasm is I get it, Cody didn't need this moment to be the winner. I respect it. I still think Gunther was made a star. There's no reason not to believe he's going to be perfectly fine for years to come.
Star.
He was not on that level. This match made him on that level. Totally, because he broke the length of the time spent in a Rumble match record. He went from 1 to being the runner-up. He was booked better than almost anybody I can imagine in my mind in the wrestling in Royal Rumble history. He really was. He just didn't win. So Gunther's set. I'm sure everybody's going to remember what he did this past Rumble.
Do you think it's Walter versus Cody at the end is going to be remembered even a tenth as much as Taker versus Shawn at the end?
I mean, I don't
Or
know yet.
Batista versus John Cena at the end? Or Chris Benoit versus Big Show at the end? Or The Rock versus Big Show at the end? Or Bret Hart and Stone Cold with the screw job at the end?
I think there's a percentage of fans who will legitimately remember the night that Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble, and they will probably forget that Gunther was the guy across from him until we see what more does come from Gunther. But I just like there was a buzz about Bianca Belair after that year that she really owned the Rumble before getting taken out, or same with Roman when he had that great one in 2014. I'm pretty sure was the one where we were kind of rooting for him instead of Batista to win. Like people will buzz about Gunther's performance. Yes, I just think it might take a year or two before he's super main event enough to like remember that night as the night that fired him up to that level. But he's there. I think it's all just still sinking in for your average fan for sure. But I think it's there.
I've been on the Walter train for a long time, and it's kind of weird. He's one of those guys that's like so clearly going to be the biggest thing ever for at least some small period of time, and they usually let those people sit around until something happens, something comes along, the moment gets missed. They get Big E'd at best. They get treated like Big E at the very best, and I just don't get it. I don't get what's taking so long. Is it because does he not speak good enough English or something? Like, what's the deal? Does he work the wrong side of the body, like Mexico? Like, what's going on?
I think they're doing a wiser thing with him. I think that they are slowly but surely mounting his reputation as somebody you don't want to be booked on the card with if you're looking to win a match. He's just slowly but surely being hardened reputationally as somebody you don't want to fuck with. And
he's brought
this Rumble,
he's brought the most prestige back to the IC title in a long time for me.
Yeah, amen. And absolutely, with this performance in the Rumble, 1,000,000%. Having that the Intercontinental Champion go from 1 to runner up in the same match where, US Champion, top guy on Raw, technically, because that's the top title on Raw right now. Just friendly reminder. Theory goes at 25 or enters at 25 and sees his way out of the match about 6 or 7 minutes later. Yeah, Gunther's looking like a stud. So there's nothing. I'm not worried about him at all. And this Rumble did create a star. It did make him an Iron Man for years to come. It's going to be okay for him. I guarantee it. It's a star-making performance. I'd be stoked to see comments light up on this video agreeing with me just to drive home how impressed we are with what he did on Saturday night. Amazing stuff from Gunther. Great booking. And, the outcome we all expected, or certainly that I expected, came to pass and Cody wins. So now he's slated for his clash with Roman to quote unquote finish the story. And I know you have an opinion on how important this story actually feels to you in the grand scope of things. Go ahead and weigh in with us.
It's just a lousy story. It's just like what is the story? Like, is it go all the way from the beginning? Is it all the way back to Cody leaving and going from undesirable to undeniable, and now he's back to win the big one, so he's just going to? Like, I don't care. There's no actual struggle. There's no actual storyline. Like, all the stuff he did with Seth Rollins, what does it matter now? Is that still part of this story? Where does this story begin and where does it actually end? Because I don't know what story we're trying to finish other than this one matters to him more than the AEW belts ever did.
I respect your perspective on this one. To me, the story is very similar to Drew McIntyre's, except
Right.
Drew
I had to
McIntyre.
leave and go be a star somewhere else so that you'd recognize me as a star and I could just waltz into your company and pick up the belt after like, mid-carding for a year.
It's a remarkable thing. Drew McIntyre is fired because he stinks, right? He's a low card guy. He didn't live up to his potential. He goes to the independents. He fills his body out. He rediscovers the tenacity and the intensity within him. He switches his character over from a 3-man band third to a legitimate mountainous ass kicker. And it doesn't take long for WWE to remember what they saw in him. Trips is the guy who brings him back on NXT, takes him to the moon there, right? And then the main roster picks him up, but they take a while for him. They took a while for him to get to the main event status and to get his Royal Rumble victory, his Brock Lesnar victory, blah, 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 blah. Cody's different. Cody was floundering despite his talent, in the mid card. You say floundering generously because he had plenty to do on television. He just couldn't get past a certain ceiling. So he said, I'm worth more than, being Stardust and being denied my WrestleMania match with my brother. We're going to go elsewhere and we're going to prove that match was top notch quality, waiting to happen, that you could have booked it, should have booked it, and he went out there and he proved everybody wrong about how strong a star he could be. The AEW's invention is a testament to that. It wouldn't have happened without Cody. So very different story.
You went out to the indie shows where they chant, "This is awesome," when the fucking popcorn guy shows up. He went and wrestled Kurt Angle when Kurt was, so doped up that fucking TNA wouldn't let him wrestle.
Right.
He went to 30 person venues where them heckling him about his wife is like the fucking highlight of the night. Like, I don't know. I'm not sold on that narrative. When AEW becomes a thing, like his matches in New Japan are like the worst, least talked about gringo matches in New Japan. No one remembers him. No one gives a shit. When he goes to AEW, every time he's booked as a face, people actually just groan and don't like him, which is the whole reason he left. And then he comes here and he gets a big pop and he just, I don't get it. I don't like, he just starts fucking with Seth Rollins because wrestling is all about like being mean to each other in high school. Wrestling is just a fucking high school drama now where it's, I thought you were my friend, but you were talking to these other guys behind my back. And, even though that we've been mad at each other because we're in the same place every day because it's high school and you have to see this person over and over, you eventually get over it and you go back to being buddies like good old times until, push comes to shove and then they just betray you again because people like, I don't get it.
I think it's because, quite frankly, the storyline of it being high school, like you're right, it is. It's not very strong. It's not very inventive, but it's relatable to a lot of people. And I think that's where these storylines still have some clout. And by the way, we're talking shit about the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Bloodline storyline, which is the greatest in wrestling, right? Like, I don't know why.
I was mostly making fun of like anything the Young Bucks have done for 3 years, but that too, I guess. That also kind of counts now that you mention it.
And
what was the other one? There was another one that was really bad because it was just like, I thought you were my friend, man. And it was like, Jesus fucking Christ, can we just get over the friendships?
Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, maybe? Is that what you're thinking about?
No, that one doesn't count. No, that one's actually, no. See, that one they actually tried to like write in a reason why they would turn on each other, like not be friends, and that that got super convoluted and
Right.
it hasn't been on TV for a minute. So
Just turns out everybody was sleeping with Christian Cage, but
yeah, Jungle Hook is cool though. That's the
we
thing, man.
digress.
After this Royal Rumble episode, we can finally branch out and do like AEW stuff and
Oh yeah,
do
there's
more
tons of things to
wrestling
talk
content.
about.
But I don't know. We've been harping on this one Rumble. There's more than one. We're not going to get to fucking anything else if we keep talking about it. Like, they're just, like, all the stuff that was good about the Rumble was, like, the tiny minutia in between. And again, that's, like, most of the stuff I complained about. So it's hard for me to say it was a bad Rumble. It's just, like, by the time we got to the last 5 entrants, I was so checked out. None of it, none of these people were anyone I really cared about. And I did get sucked back in by Cody and Walter having some pretty good exchanges, but it wasn't like a quality wrestling match. It was just pretty good for a final 2.
I said it last week, and I'll just, to the interest of us truly moving on, I will say this. I felt like Cody wasn't my pick to win the Rumble in my heart, but there's something about him that's resonating with the WWE universe on a larger scale than us right now. And it's probably the story that we've discussed to this point, and the fact that he's the first guy to leave WWE, be the foundation of AEW, and then leave AEW so he can come back and fulfill his prophecy here. I mean, it's compelling enough to the majority of WWE Universe members. Okay, like it's
they
just
pipe
something
in
we
crowd
don't.
noise. I hate to spoil it for you. They pipe in crowd noise. You can't trust that.
Nice. And I don't blame them if they do, because honestly, I don't quite personally agree that Cody Rhodes is the guy, but he's going to be. It is happening. It is in motion. Like,
It's
just
boring.
wait for it.
His matches are boring. He's like never really told a story that wasn't guy wrestles from under, miraculous comeback. Wow.
I will say he earned some major points of respect. Not that he needed them from me, because there's many reasons why I've always been a bit of a Cody Rhodes fan, not necessarily a fan of him as top guy, heads and shoulders above everybody else, but a fan out of who respects what he does. His Hell in a Cell match with a torn pectoral muscle with Seth is a truly astounding feat of toughness. Okay, so like that probably scored a crap ton of points with people who were skeptical.
Doped up so bad he couldn't feel anything.
Well, God bless him. So would we be, man. Like,
that
I'm
was probably
sorry.
an astounding feat of narcotics.
Okay, moving on. Guess what?
That was
Royal
probably
Rumble.
a really stupid thing to do for his career. Like,
Oh my God. Royal Rumble Men's is in the books, everybody. Let it go. And the reason why we feel comfortable spending an hour and a half talking about that alone is that the rest of this pay-per-view was not nearly as interesting to talk about. We're going to slide right through it. Starting with, I'm sure, your favorite segment of the night. How about the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match between Bray and LA Knight? How much did you watch and enjoy this one? Tell us.
So it's kind of funny. I forget who I was talking to about it. But I didn't know. Did they like do any advertisements for Mountain Dew before this? Was there
Only
like sponsored? Was there like sponsored parts of like Raw and SmackDown for Mountain Dew?
I mean, only the same stuff that they've always done. Mountain Dew brings to you the Royal Rumble Saturday.
Well, so they did do that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't see any of that, and I was talking to a friend, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny as fuck if it was just a commercial for Mountain Dew? Because I knew about the Mountain Dew Pitch Black flavor, actually. And then I think it did enter my brain that Mountain Dew was like involved, and Mountain Dew has sponsored a bunch of shit before with them. Mountain Dew has been a pretty consistent, like, brought to you by this soda bottle on our desk. So that, like, somewhere in there it entered my psyche because I was joking with someone that it was actually just going to be like them fighting for a Mountain Dew on a pole. I thought it was going to be like a Pitch Black on a pole match. And somehow they did worse than that. Somehow they did the entrances, and Bray Wyatt's entrance was sick as fuck. And then the lights dimmed, and no one ever explained any rules to me. Nobody ever explained any, they're like, maybe they mentioned it's like a no DQ. I don't know. No one ever mentioned like, well, how you win or what's different. And then the giant logo hits and I said, fuck this. And I skipped it. I didn't watch a single second of it.
Yeah. So legitimately, guys, Sam didn't watch this match. I remember.
I refuse to give them my time. I want their data analytics to see people skip it, which doesn't matter because Warren did watch it, and so it's that Peacock account is still gonna have those metrics.
That's
involved,
true. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah,
it shows that I watched it. Since you shared what you thought this match, okay.
I was just gonna say I refuse to watch a fucking commercial during an event where I already have to watch commercials during an event where you've already fucking paid for it to support. Like, commercials are there to make money. You are paying for a service that they're supposed to make the money without the fucking commercials, and then you're delivering me a giant fucking commercial as the product. Fuck you.
He's not the Fiend. He's not the Monster. He's not the Beast of Bray or whatever. It's just Bray Wyatt doing Bray Wyatt things, apparently putting on neon masks and choking people with his middle finger and his ring finger. Like, I don't know, man. I really, as a Bray Wyatt guy, as somebody who completely wishes to believe and admire what he does, this was crap. And I'm so disappointed. Get me away from this Velocity main event quality of in-ring work too. You're right. Like, there's something not working here. Bray, I mean, for me, and I, God bless it. I'm so good at loving most of this stuff. Like, I really am. But this, man, just left me shaking my head. And I thought, man, this is a bad omen for the rest of the night. So I would love to end this segment so we can get on to the other parts of the conversation that will matter to us. But you have every right to be. I'm not surprised you skipped it, man. Part of me wishes I had, just so I wasn't let down so hard.
The pitch black match is actually called a neon rave match, and it's not something you do as a fucking commercial, as a horror gimmick. It's something you do with Liv Morgan.
Right.
Like, this would have been
Naomi.
perfect if it was Liv Morgan versus Shotzi Blackheart shooting Nerf darts at each other and, I don't know, eating lollipops or some shit. Like, that's what this match was for. This match would have worked really well if it was like Naomi, that you do it. That's a Naomi match, not a fucking horror match. So.
I'm with you. That's exactly how I felt. And
like Naomi should be sitting at home just like ready to fucking quit if she's not with them. Like, I don't even know if she's with WWE. Like, what has she been doing? Like, that's her match, bro. They literally just took her match and made it a fucking shitty horror gimmick commercial.
It was a deflating 15 minutes of television for me. I think it was more than that. Like, I swear, as much as you wanted to move on when I was discussing Vince McMahon's return at nauseum, I'm ready to move on.
All right, let's move on then. Fuck that match. Fuck commercials. Vote with your time. Don't watch it. Speaking of something that didn't have a lot of time because we're running out of time, is women's championship match. That was I don't know, a solid TV spot, 8 minutes on TV.
Right. So yeah,
a cable Monday Night Raw match. Not like, the only thing was I was afraid that I'd have to watch the pitch black match to understand something that happens here with Alexa Bliss.
Right.
And that wasn't really true, but I don't know, man. She didn't, like, this was a one-sided match. Nothing really happened.
Yeah, which is a bummer, especially since you're trying to evolve, quote unquote, how Bray Wyatt's story is going. Maybe you'd want the same from an Alexa Bliss match tonight versus Bianca Belair. And Belair's, been doing an excellent job holding the Raw Women's Championship dating back to last WrestleMania. It took me a second to remember, oh yeah, she hasn't really lost it. She's kept it this whole time, had decent matches with each person she's been in the ring with. None quite as good as the first couple matches she's had as champ. But whatever, she's still a bona fide star, as you would put it, one of the most organic in WWE. And people love her, and her story is great. She's super likable. She makes her own ring work or her own ring gear. Like, there's a lot of reasons why Bianca Belair is a self-made star. And up against Alexa, you'd expect, I mean, it's a foregone conclusion, truly, unless some fuckery gets involved with all this supernatural shit that Alexa would lose from a physical standpoint. And maybe that's just the story here, is that, it was all just to remind us that Alexa Bliss in her average human form isn't quite the same athlete as Bianca Belair. She isn't the EST, right? So it was a quick, nondescript, as you would say, one-sided match in which Alexa, used craftiness to get a couple moments of offensive, priority. But no, it was a KOD after about 8 minutes. And then we got another cryptic video where, like, we get a reminder of everything that's happened to Alexa Bliss in her interactions with The Fiend and Uncle Howdy to this point. Like going back to when she spewed blood a couple Rumbles ago, like you were talking about. And
I miss Alexa Bliss's personality. Like, can I just get Alexa Bliss back, please? Like,
yeah.
She was never the best wrestler. She's always been kind of a tumbler dancer type, and she's always lacked oomph in like a Rey Mysterio kind of way. But she always had like some kind of fucked up character to like back it up. She always had like some kind of mean girl. Like, she's the only one, I guess, who's ever pulled off like the mean high school girl thing. And, I don't even know if I ever thought of her as that way, but like she always had something clever going on in the early days of like her championship runs. But I don't know. They've tried to use her in so many ways, especially ways that like aren't a wrestler. They've had her like do talk show style stuff. Like, they obviously want to feature her, but like not in a wrestling ring very often.
Yeah, well, I think the injuries that hit her after her real successful Raw run as champion, like that's been a big reason why we haven't seen as much of her in the ring. That's when they started the talk show stuff, and that's when she met Bray, and everything started getting weird. And she's just been super transfixed on that character. I think honestly, part of it has to be because the actress herself wants to be embroiled in something deeper than just your typical backyard wrestling stuff. She doesn't want to just be the mean girl. She wants to have something else to do to test her performance ability. Well, she's about to get it because she continues to circle the supernatural drain. We didn't get any real actual meat to move forward on in this storyline. So soon, someday, somehow, some way, Alexa's going to be altered and become demonic again of some kind. We don't know why or who she'll be emulating.
Yeah.
And so this is also a bit of just a throwaway segment that honestly, I don't have much to say on.
Just like the Bray Wyatt stuff, there's nothing. There's no substance. So then it was
I just want to say now 2/5 of the pay-per-view though is mired by this stuff. And so either this stuff gets better and structured and moves forward and gives us clarity, or they're in real danger of just completely shitting the brick on all of this. And it's just so sad to see for me personally. But again, fill up the comments with why you like this crap, guys. I'm down. Maybe the little kids are like, ooh, this is really neat. It's the Undertaker, blah, 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 kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, maybe I'm just too old to love it at this point. It's a bummer for me if that's the case, but oh well. And then, go ahead. Take us into the Women's Rumble, I'm sure.
Are you sure you don't have more to say about this segment with nothing to say about it?
Sorry, man. I'm just so mad.
No, I just think it's funny.
I'm sure. I'm usually happy-go-lucky. Like, let's get this. I just can't. I cannot get this.
I just think it would have been way funnier and a better use of our time if, like, 18 minutes ago we were like, this match sucks and isn't worth talking about. And then didn't talk about either one of them. Because, I don't know, that's the kind of person I am.
I hear you. We still spend a nice, quick segment on it. So
I'd like to think my time is valuable, but I spend it watching WWE, so obviously
ooh, burn, bitches. Then, now, forever together.
Another exhaustingly long experience, but this one was good. The Women's Rumble. Everything about this pay-per-view just felt like I'm waiting for the next thing to happen, but in the women's rumble, it had a pretty decent pace. It had a lot of stuff happening at least, so even when I was waiting for it, it was good. And the biggest thing is the starting two were fucking phenomenal. So
Yeah. As soon as Rhea Ripley's music hit at number one, I was hooked because I think you and I both agreed right out of the gate, and most of WWE Universe out there, if we pulled them, Rhea Ripley was probably an odds-on favorite for many to win this match. So as soon as her music hit, I was like, okay, I'm buckled in.
it was pretty scary. I didn't think that they were going to let her go 1-30, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. Well, here we go. Spoiler alert, she did. The first woman to do it. And
I'm glad they didn't save that for Charlotte.
Amen. Give it to somebody new. The four horsewomen don't need that accolade at this point. Give it to a Rhea Ripley, who was put over as strong as any woman could be in this match. The Royal Rumble is, if you look at the numbers, the Royal Rumble is Rhea Ripley's match, not Bianca's, as another young up and coming star who has been solidified by it partially. It's been Ripley's story. So she comes in at number one, still favoring the ribs like a good girl from the spear that she took from Beth Phoenix about an hour and a half before at this point.
That's when that's why I realized she was actually going to win, though. When she was clutching the ribs still and they showed the replay, I'm like, oh, wow, she might even face turn, although of course that didn't happen.
Well, she's almost too lovable to hate at this point for many of us, right? She's over as hell, But you either love her or you love to hate her.
Yeah, and her they just picked a really good dance partner for her with Liv Morgan. Like, they obviously gelled together.
Yeah.
It's very funny to me that, like, I normally don't pay too much attention to like attire unless it's like really specific, like a specific flair of attire. But I did think it's funny that they were both like wearing straps and studs and collars, but like one is like the cotton candy version and one's like the goth version. It's like pastel goth meets like traditional nouveau goth, and I don't know, that tickled my fancy that we've got two wrestlers wearing basically bondage gear with two different flavors.
I call it punk versus emo, but you're right. Similar vibes, just different approaches. And I do like that this was 1 and 2 as well. Liv Morgan had been one of those few stars who were actually acknowledging the Rumble match leading up to it. She was campaigning around, asking to be number 1. So being number 2 is as good as you're going to get otherwise. And in my brain, I remember writing down this note, for our conversation. I didn't have too much optimism that Liv Morgan was going to hang with Ripley. I'm pleased to be as wrong as I was, because these two lasted the entire match together. And kudos, like absolute kudos to Liv Morgan, because she needed a star. I think she's needed a star-making performance. And in a way, this was for her as well, because she really didn't get much love as women's champion, and she lost the title. Yeah.
You're looking for like a star-making performance from people that they've already pushed to the top of a card.
It's true, but Liv's was really bad as far as where she was when she was at the top of said card. So let's rebuild her. This was a great building block to helping that to happen. So
and keep Ronda Rousey the fuck away from her.
Keep Ronda Rousey away from everybody at this point. I don't need to see her back for a while. She's worn out her welcome with her pretty poor in-ring work, honestly, and her just wooden performance as an actress. Sorry, I know acting isn't supposed to be like super important in wrestling, but Ronda's acting is just wooden enough to stand out as opposite of what you want. Right? It's just that bad. So cool. She wasn't here tonight, and it's better for it. We had Dana Brooke, who looked unrecognizable. I don't know why she's still employed. We had Emma, who I hoped would have a better view or a better showing, come out at number 4. She only lasted maybe about 5 or 6 minutes, but I'm glad Emma's back in WWE. I just hope they find something to do with her. I mean, why come back just to be a bottom feeder? Unless you like that paycheck, I guess. Whatever. And then Shayna Baszler had come out, and I didn't even realize she had new music, but the new music is terrible. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch that it was new.
Okay.
I did catch that it was terrible.
I always liked her music. I thought Shayna Baszler has been mishandled for a long time at this point, and the mishandling continued here, really. And I actually don't need to go blow by blow for this Rumble as much. I do want to say that there was a fun moment with Roxanne Perez from NXT showing up and really showing out as an undersized and extremely capable and athletic wrestler who was signed less than a year ago and had trained with Booker T at his school. Having her come and make a Rumble appearance was neat. Anything to weigh in around this phase of the Rumble, man? This is when Bayley was in the match. B-Fab came out at number 7, was the first to be eliminated. Any thoughts from those?
No, it was nice that Damage Control wasn't like super squished together. I think this Rumble didn't suffer as much from the we're gonna book people right next to each other, but it definitely was there a bit. I mean, even if you consider Liv and Rhea Ripley going like all the way to the end, all the way from the beginning, they technically did it there too because they worked together so much, right? But no, the only
for the record though, just real quick before I'm just going to debunk that super fast. Bayley was number 6, Dakota Kai was number 9, and Io Sky was number 10.
Oh, they were really 9 and 10. I thought that they were like a bit split up more. I don't know. To me, 3 spots away was a lot for this fucking Rumble. So,
sure.
I thought they were 6, 9, and 11, and that was like me trying to be nice that they weren't that split. They weren't that jammed together. So,
number 11 was Natalia, who came back, and talk about a needle mover at this stage of her career. Am I right? High five.
Yeah, all the people she worked with. So the main points for me is just heaping praise on Rhea Ripley because she was energetic, she was reacting, she had character work, she was so excited to eliminate people. Like she was having fun out there, like it was her night. It's like the same way that Elias, you could tell, was like not into it, stiff, like seemed annoyed, constipated that he was going down there. Rhea Ripley was super into it, and I mean, why wouldn't you be if you know you're going over? So that kind of stuff really showed, and that really helped when you seemed to interact with almost everyone that came in the Rumble. The only other super noteworthy things for me, I guess, was it Michelle McCool coming through the crowd was kind of funny, even though she spent so much time basically just spoiling it on social media. Everything I saw from her was, oh, I'm going to be in the crowd, guys. If they haven't called me, it's super serious. And it's like, you wouldn't even be tweeting about it. Shut the fuck up.
She was number 25, closer to the back. I'll just real quick slide in that I was happy to see Zoe Stark from NXT come in and have a pretty good 20-minute move, I think, in the Rumble, or spot in the Rumble. She came in at 13. She's a very capable wrestler. I think she's main roster bound pretty soon, and I was really glad she got a great run this year for the Rumble. Go ahead, slide another one that stood out to you. I got a couple more thoughts from this one, so you got to have at least one more.
Lacey Evans' gimmick is fucking terrible.
Number 24 for her. Shitty heel character is not a flattering choice for Evans, is what I literally wrote down. She's been by the way, she's been debuting at Royal Rumble since 2019. Do you realize that? Like, eek.
That's fucking weird. I liked the Zelina Vega cosplay thing. She's always cosplaying Street Fighter characters, which your boy's a big fan of Street Fighter characters. And I don't think anyone noticed. I think Xia Li was also at least very inspired by Nakali from Street Fighter, but she's not the fucking announcer, which that's kind of cool. That's like a cool announcement that Zelina Vega got to be an announcer and like the Street Fighter 6 plug on WWE. So I was really happy like for that. And then I thought the work she did in the ring was actually kind of fucking insane for the most part.
We're talking about Vega?
Yeah, Zelina Vega doing like actual, because she was cosplaying as Juri, who was a Taekwondo character, and her entire character is basically that she uses her feet and she's a bitch. That's her whole thing. She's just like a ruthlessly sadistic, mean bitch. and she takes pleasure in other people's suffering, and she uses her feet to fight, and that's why at one point you saw Zelina Vega like pick up Xia Li's chin with her foot and like blow her a kiss. That's Juri to a T. That's like her whole super move. So
Yeah, and then Xia Li sold the kick like she just got roundhouse kicked in Mortal Kombat, right? Flipping
Yeah.
around the screen and falling off. Like, yeah, I got the references there a little bit, at least with Jury, of course, with Vega. And Vega, by the way, folks, Zelina Vega is as underrated as they come as far as women's wrestling. I know that she's completely capable of putting on excellent matches, and she's even a finer manager. So I'm hoping that she's still got her best days in the E ahead of her, even after winning the Queen of the Ring tournament and being grouped up with Legado del Fantasma right now, trying to help be their manager. I hope her best days are ahead of her. Zelina's way underrated, but I'm surprised we haven't at least got caught up on number 17 when Asuka returned. Thank you, Jesus. Sporting, again, face paint that was more similar to her Kana character in Japan, and the crowd loved it. And everything she did throughout the rest of the match, I mean, she was third last in the match. She
was fucking
looked
great.
She looked great. She wrestled great. Her presence is great. Hopefully, she'll be kept near the top tier of the women's division from this point on. Great stuff from that, right?
Yeah, Asuka had like a full year now where she just seemed off. Like she never seemed like she was clicking with anyone. Her timing was always off. Her spots were always off. People couldn't tell which way she's spinning around for a kick or a fist or whatever. She was like wearing awkward shirts for a while. Like I don't know. There's like this whole. I don't know what to say about it. Like again, I'm not usually someone who like pays attention to like ring gear, like ring attire type stuff, but like Asuka just wrestling in like a t-shirt for like a full year was just fucking weird.
Yeah.
And now she's back with like the sick fucking gold and black, and I don't know why it's such like an Asian wrestler thing, but they do like this superhero wear your underwear on the outside thing.
Right.
But like it looked clean this time, like with she had like championship colors on. She looked like she was wearing like a special get up for a championship defense, and then that combined with the sick new makeup look and like she had like a special ring attire or like an entrance attire. I mean, with the whole fucking mask and the fans,
sure.
And, like, the big reveal was tight. Asuka just nailed it, and she should have actually won this Rumble, but
right.
That's my bias.
That should be the next thing Trips wants to tackle is get yourself your first 2-time women's winner of a Rumble. So Asuka's a great candidate as early as next year. She's obviously in better shape. Even the way she was carrying her face, like holding her face, and her expressions in this match were different to help put over the change from the Asuka we once knew to this new and more, I would say, primal version of her. This could be really good. I'm sure we're buckling up to have her face Belair at WrestleMania. Can't think of a better challenger, especially because Becky Lynch and Bayley are really pushing forward on their feud. That was part of the Rumble too, but we've kind of seen this coming that those two would feud at WrestleMania. In my opinion, Bayley and Becky. So that leaves Asuka needing something to do, and Belair as well. Get in there, go wrestle Asuka at WrestleMania. She's the right one. Great stuff there. We also saw Piper Niven shed the Dewdrop name and come back as herself in this Rumble, and that can only do her good things. I'm totally thrilled to see that because Dewdrop was a terrible name. Not that Piper Niven's exceptionally better, but it is at least more authentic to her. Wouldn't you say?
She's pretty forgettable. I was calling her Dewdrop the whole time, so.
So were the commentators with all their stupid puns. But
yeah, well, there you go.
The verdict can be out on that. But there was one more big return, right? Number 30. The irresistible force, maybe? Or is she the immovable object? I can't remember. Ring a bell yet?
Oh, fucking Nia Jax was in this match for a few minutes. I
Yeah.
think I actually was looking at my phone the whole time she was in. I think I saw her come out, like they hit the number 30, and then I got like a text message about getting paid from someone, and I was just on my phone. And then the next thing I know, she's actually just getting dumped out by every single woman. And I
Right.
was like,
Welcome
huh,
back,
they did the
Naya.
smart thing when people are afraid of a fat powerhouse that's hard to lift and didn't fuck around and, actually just eliminated them. So probably for the best, she would have injured Zelina Vega.
Well, there's many different ways you can feel about Nia Jax's return. I'm fairly indifferent myself. Maybe The Rock's cousin coming back to the company will help The Rock's daughter down in NXT have a bit of a mentor at some point, a couple years from now, if Nia Jax can maintain, being employed with WWE again to this point or to that point, excuse me. But I don't know. I've never been much of a Nia fan. I get that her lineage and her proportions perhaps make her quite the unique star. Um, but I don't personally care for her. And so welcome back. But, you know, I'm glad she was ousted by most of the field. And, that's basically all that this Rumble really had to offer by means of talking points outside
The
of
final
maybe.
three was amazing, and their final eliminations and like fighting on the apron. Like, I can't let this segment go by without talking about how good Rhea Ripley was. Like,
Right.
on the fucking apron, like slipping around, like looking like just natural. Like, it's pretty tough, and you see it all the time where it's very clear that a guy is just turning around and jumping or, just like you can tell they're never gonna fall out and stuff like that. But I thought she did a fucking awesome job with that. I thought Asuka and Liv Morgan all did fucking great, like selling the blindness and still performing, like all that shit. All of that final three, that's what your final eliminations should always be like. And it's interesting that the women have seemed to prefer this like we're all fighting on the apron at the end thing rather than like men who are always doing like the I'm gonna carry someone over. And I wonder if it's because they have more room.
Hmm. Interesting. I hadn't made that observation. I think they were just seeking to do something visually different than any final sequence that we've seen to this point, and they got it. With the trio on
Yeah.
the apron to finish it.
That shit was gold.
It was an generally the Rumble was not a bad one for me. It was a step behind the men's Rumble in my opinion, but
What?
I was grateful to see Rhea Ripley, set a record, be the first woman to go 1 to 30. That record being, folks, the longest single tenure. She eclipsed somebody else's run in the past. I can't remember who's, sorry, but she's a stud. She's a fantastic face of the women's division moving forward. And you want to talk about somebody who should have already been there. I mean, Ripley's technically should have already been there for a few years too. Lady Gunther. So go get it. And I'm ready to see her on top of the division. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to note about this is she paid a lot of tribute to Rey Mysterio throughout the whole thing. Her last two eliminations were like a 619 style maneuver and then a head scissors. So I think that's a cute little nod considering she's hanging out with Ray's kid and also
She's mommy now. Yeah.
yeah, and then also did the, beginning to end trip. So that's kind of neat.
That is cool. I think Rhea Ripley has all the tools to be one of the best female wrestlers the business has ever seen, and she's now hitting her prime and her stride. So let's hope that prediction holds true. She's the only one who can get in her own way right now. She is a star for sure. Which brings us here at the 2 hour mark, friends, to the main event of the evening. And, we may want to cut this short and leave a lot of our speculation for how storylines will be handled moving forward for next week. I wouldn't blame you if we did, Sam, because we have much to unpack as a result of the main event of the Royal Rumble. Kevin Owens goes down clean. Many could have predicted that, and probably did. But it's the aftermath that shook us all. Sammy's decision to turn on Roman Reigns was complete.
The whole storyline seems really fucking stupid when Kevin Owens debuted breaking Sammy's back and being like, we're not friends. And then they already did the thing where they like got together and were friends for such a short period. And then he turned on him again. And like I needed a thread. I needed a symbolic measure of their friendship. You know what I mean? I needed something that Roman could use against Sammy to like bring them together. Like if Roman Reigns said, fuck Montreal or fuck Quebec or wherever the fuck Sami Zayn's from or something, you know, like wherever they're from, like if he just, like, I don't know, man, like there's nothing there. There is no story there. They fucking killed all of the buildup for the bloodline. It's no longer going to be a Sami Zayn main event story. It's going to be a main event Jey Uso story. Like, I don't get it. It makes no sense. None of it makes any sense to me.
You did appreciate, and I was trying to alley-oop you to the reference you had made in text to me, how you were at least celebrating that the first thing Roman did after getting hit in the back by the steel chair, a la when it happened to him at the Shield turn, right? It was that he crumpled up into a fetal position because of sheer PTSD.
Nope. I don't remember talking about that at all.
Oh man, it had to be one of my other wrestling insightful friends. But if you notice, that's exactly, they replayed Sammy's betrayal was exactly like Seth's, and Roman does shrivel up into a tiny ball in disbelief that this was happening to him again, because his wrestling brethren were turning his back on him.
I wanted to commend them for like after the match, just starting like a giant beatdown, like a 5-man mugging of Kevin Owens and shit, and then they ruined it. So I don't know. I don't want to see fucking anything happening at WrestleMania as of right now. Like as far as the undisputed, I guess, title goes. There's no permutation of Bloodline, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes that I am interested in at this point. There are no stories behind them. They are just making booking decisions. It's WCW 1999.
So if it's one thing that I know about my friend Sam, listeners, it's that once he's in this frame of mind, the only thing we can do is pray that the next week of television changes some of his mind, and kind of not argue with him. I'm going to sit here and tell you, I could tell you till I'm blue in the face, that there's so many different ways this storyline that can move forward in at least a semi-satisfactorily way. Like, I don't know how they're going to make everybody happy. The fans that want to see Cody as champion, the fans that want to see Sammy as champion. This fan over here is actually super intrigued for what Jey Uso's role in all of this would be, or Kevin Owens as well. Like, there's a lot of different avenues for them to take.
Like,
but
there's some good ideas. There are like good ideas, like the fact that there's like the multi-layered thing where Jay decided like I don't want to be a part of this anymore, and like, you know, it's some of that shit's come full circle, and like he remembers his own ass beatings, I guess, but like,
right, yeah,
there's no connecting thread. They just decided we want these things to happen, and there's, I don't know, like you could maybe make this stretch if they were literal family. Everyone in the fucking wrestling business is like brothers, or, you know, like thick as thieves if they've ever tag teamed together, you know. The bloodline, though, the whole point of the bloodline story is about being literal actual family and shit like that. And so they could have played that up in some way, but they didn't play up the relationship at all, except for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn not liking each other the entire fucking time. And like, I just needed something like a memento, like a trading card, like a baseball card that Kevin gave him when he was a kid, or a fucking picture of them when he was El Generico and they were doing ladder wars, or like something to ground it back in like the good old days, but he just didn't. He just went, oh, wow, I'm actually tired of seeing him get his ass beat to death when I've been the one doing it to him for months. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I agree with that. I agree with that note on the story. Why, of all times, was this beatdown the one that pushed him too far? It's true.
He watched Kevin Owens get handcuffed by Roman before. This isn't new.
Right? No, you have an absolutely super strong point.
In my head, because this has been like super WCW about all this shit, and because it's we were friends and we were not friends and now we are friends and in my head I thought Sami Zayn's like final test was going to be taking out a cattle prod and like stun gunning Kevin, or like literally torturing the guy and shit, and like they basically were doing that, but I don't know, not in like a over the top beyond wrestling kind of way. So, I was still like on the same track of like maybe he could decide that, whatever Roman wanted him to do was actually too fucked up. But Sami Zayn has fucking beat the shit out of Kevin Owens with enough steel chairs that I don't buy it.
I can empathize exactly how it feels out of place. I do get it. I felt when I was watching it, like, even though I wanted to see what come to pass, can't come to pass, and Sammy whacked Roman, and for us to get Sammy on the good guys' side again, the why does seem to be missing. Why was this the moment where Sammy was like, you're right, even though Kevin still hates me, doesn't want anything to do with me, and I've been kicking his ass a la this same exact, scripting for months, this is the night where, what? Enough is enough. We don't need to do this. We don't need to demean him any further. And I'm so over it to the point where everything that I've just worked for and clawed for and believed in is going up in smoke. It does seem like there's something in the middle that's missing. And I suppose we're just going to have to wait for the next steps of the story to be written. We didn't really get any forward momentum on Raw. And so SmackDown's going to be, I think everybody's eyes will be there to see how they're going to very sensitively navigate around all of these pieces that are now prepared to battle for the WWE Championship. Are we going to split the belts is something that comes to mind for me. Could Sammy win one and Roman win, or Cody win the other, for example? I know that we were just talking about how we don't want that. We like there being one supreme title, but it may be necessary with how over both guys are, Sammy and Cody. And the Jay note is the most interesting to me because they really didn't have to do that. They didn't have to call back to how Jay is also traumatized by Roman's behavior. So,
or they could have, like, I don't know, played into it in some way, like make that well known, give this character something other than a surprise snap decision or a visceral reaction, or, I don't know. There's so many ways they could have gone about it that could have made this really work. The biggest thing to me was he started doing like the, what, you think you're me, you think you could be the chief type of shit. And, I don't know, that shit kind of came out of left field, but they could have worked with something like that. Yeah, man, I don't know. This whole thing has just been a huge letdown from something that we were saying was the best TV. I don't think he should have turned. I don't get why break them up. It's not the right time. There's still so much that they could have done with it. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, Sami Zayn turned on him, when he had like nothing to gain, and he was just the best heel on the show. So
it's going to be super interesting to see what steps are taken to satisfy every wrestling fan they can as WrestleMania begins to loom. They've given themselves a lot of booking themselves into a corner to avoid, right? Like it's going to be interesting. And
like when people are cheering Sami Zayn's name and Roman Reigns is in the ring, why is that not part of the story?
Right. The crowd reaction. I mean, in Japan, it sure would be, right?
Like, why is it not? Why is Roman not get on the microphone weeks ago? They could have built this up for weeks instead of it just being like, oh, it's your friend Kevin Owens, so you might betray me. The same Kevin Owens that you've fucking told to fuck off and die for a year now. You know, the same Kevin Owens who, you know, used to fucking clown on you with Chris Jericho. Again, the same Kevin Owens who turned on you in Ring of Honor and you went to war with, you know, back in Ring of Honor. And then when he debuted in the same company under WWE as you, fucked you over, that guy, that's the guy I'm afraid you're going to fucking turn on me for. Like, give me a fucking break. You should be mad at Sami because he's getting more attention than you. You should be mad because the crowd is literally acknowledging Sami Zayn in front of you. How is that not the fucking storyline?
Excellent. I totally understand and agree. It can very well be swerved that way and make it the true focal point.
I mean, it's too late now because they're obviously going to be cheering for him and acknowledging him because he's the babyface and not the heel. You know, it worked when they were in the same faction working together, and people are happy for Sami while he's doing degenerate heel shit. How is that not part of the story?
Because
you want the crowd to acknowledge Roman. Roman acknowledging the crowd and playing off them would be huge, but you know, we got to stick to our scripts.
A little bit. You're right. This is where a little bit of Japanese improvisation and understanding of the importance of that crowd reaction more than ever could really help add strength to the story where the beats don't quite add up. And I would challenge though that we shouldn't dissect it too much further until we see how things unfold over the next week. And, you know, get excited about some different topics, perhaps, to bring to the table for, you know, next week's discussion. But I know everything's up in the air and it's kind of hard to call it the perfect story anymore. We'll just have to wait how they decide to step forward. I have some ideas, but, you know, we're already at our 2 hours, my friend, and I bet our fans will enjoy kind of weighing in their ideas of how things should go moving forward to keep everybody happy. How would you like to see the main event of WrestleMania handled at this point, folks? I'm still in love with the story enough to look forward to the next couple months, but I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you to be, Sam, when you're like this. So,
yeah, I have to wait for them to. They gave us a pretty good cliffhanger, I guess. And I just have to wait to see how all the booking, all the matches shake down. Because a lot of shit can change between now and WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes might not be number one contender. They've done it a few times before. So I have to. Basically, I'm at the point where I have to wait and see what they're going to do so I can bitch about it.
There you go. That's we need to put that on a shirt. That's our first catchphrase. I gotta see what they're gonna do so I can bitch about it, homies. That's gonna drop within the next couple weeks. Okay.
It's a little wordy. The recap is Men's Royal Rumble, kind of tight that they did some actual wrestling. Everything else in between, everything that wasn't a Rumble, pretty shitty. Women's Rumble, really good because of the few stars that got to just be focused, be the focus throughout it. And if you guys like what you hear, give us a subscribe, like the video, share with your other wrestling friends. All that engagement helps. Comment down below what you like. It's the algorithm game, guys. We need your help. And that's all I got. You got any plugs, Warren?
I just want to say thank you to the listeners. It means a lot that you guys take the time to sit with us and be in our mental mind or our wrestling mind frames with us. It's not easy, I know. Hopefully you guys keep listening. And as far as a plug, man, just live life. Try to smile a little wider. Get ready for the biggest wrestling season of the year. It's not dead in the water yet. We just got to see what happens next. And go Sami Zayn.
Well, we're on the road to WrestleMania. We're going to take a 3-second tan. We'll see you next week. Peace out, everybody.